Hello everyone, meteorologist Carly Smith is here. This is your live video update. And we are going to talk about the possible development in the Gulf of Mexico. Rain chances late this week and 3 named storms in the Atlantic. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this update. Yeah, so the big news this morning is the National Hurricane Center did lower our chance of development there in the Western Caribbean and the Gulf from 50 to 40%. It's not that big, but anything in the lower direction is positive, especially for any areas out toward Florida. That's the last thing we want, is another system to hit that area that's already been severely damaged, catastrophic damage across all of Florida's Gulf-facing coast for the most part, especially Tampa north, and then of course horrible news coming out of the Carolinas as well. But we've got to keep watching the forecast, and this is worth watching, not worrying about for Texas, especially at this point. Looking further out, we do have 3 named systems. That's something else new this morning. Tropical storm Kirk developed, and Kirk actually has a very high chance of becoming a major hurricane really over the next 48 to 72 hours. So a major hurricane expected in the Atlantic. It's going to curve north and kind of follow the same path that Joyce did. And so it's going to curve north and northeast, not anticipating any impacts to the United States except for maybe increased surf and rip currents there across the eastern coastline. That 80% chance of development following behind Kirk, that storm does have a chance as it develops to potentially track toward the Caribbean. Now, there's still kind of that wide range of possible development where it could turn northeast on a similar path of Kirk, or it could make it into the Caribbean Sea. So that tropical wave will be worth watching, but for now, Kirk is expected to become a major hurricane. And then we have our 40% chance of development. So you also see there in the Pacific, there's the 70 and 20% chance of development as well. That is all has to do with that Central American gyre, that area of low pressure. We'll talk more about that in just a second. But when it comes specifically for the Corpus Christi coastal bend forecast, this is what we are looking at. So rain chances do go up Friday, Saturday, especially Friday and Saturday. And so here's why. We are watching the tropics, of course. So there's that low. You can see the low. This is the Central American gyre. There's an area of possible development there in the Pacific. We're not worried about that. We have this area right here, right? This is a trough that's going to work to develop in the Bay of Campeche. So if you log on to KIIITV.com and you go to the Hurricane Central tab, there is a tropical update that I wrote up this morning. We as a team just kind of update that and adjust our forecast as needed. But I added this morning, it really does look like, based on the ensemble data, there's going to be 2 areas of low pressure worth watching instead of just one. One is this trough, this black line that I drew. The other one is going to be that possible area of development. So really, if you look here, there's not an obvious low. So the National Hurricane Center does have a surface low in the mid levels of the atmosphere. There's not an obvious low really into Tuesday morning, but let's continue this on. So we have this trough, right? So the trough is showing a tropical wave. Essentially, it's an inverted trough. So a lot of times across the United States, we talk about the troughs, the downhill slope of the roller coaster, right? That's where all the active weather is. That also steers our tropical systems. But this trough, what it's going to do is move west, and it's going to bring rainfall into the coastal bend, or at least return our tropical moisture. Because right now, there are several little cold fronts that are going to be moving through the region. So there's cold front number 1. It's not going to have an impact on South Texas, so don't get excited. But you see it pass through. That could help try to intensify this trough, try to make it strengthen, but I don't really see that happening. There's no obvious sign of that. But as you can see, the trough moves west, and that brings the Gulf of Mexico moisture back into the coastal bend. Then we have this little section that I have highlighted by these arrows. So these arrows are going to be that low that the National Hurricane Center is tracking moving into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's over the Bay of Campeche area by Friday. This is a little slower development. It follows that high pressure over Cuba up into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, right now, in this point in time on Friday, the Gulf of Mexico is kind of open for two different paths. It could go to Florida, it could go to Corpus, to Texas. That was a little too direct, but it could go either way, right? But we do have another cold front digging south. That front is going to act like a magnet for the system, and the high slides south over the Caribbean Sea. That's going to create some steering winds that try to push the system toward Florida as well. Then as the next trough sets up, we stay in this pattern with high pressure ridge over the western United States and troughs moving through the eastern United States. This setup really keeps storms moving toward Florida versus moving toward Texas. And so they're going to tap into, you can really see it. You see it, actually, let's do the steering winds first. So you really see it better when you look at the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. So what we see here, I'm going to pause it in the right here. So right here, we have the trough dipping, right? This is a little delayed. I'm going to pause it right here. So right here, you see the high pressure over kind of Cuba, the Bahamas. There's a region of high pressure. That's going to steer the system to Florida. Additionally, as this cold front's dropping south, what we are going to see is the winds intensified across the Gulf of Mexico, the northern Gulf of Mexico, and into the southeast. That's going to work as wind shear that would help tear up tropical systems, block Texas from any possible development moving in, but steer anything that does move north and east toward Florida, and then into the Atlantic instead of up into the Carolinas, which is where we definitely don't want to see a whole lot of additional rainfall this week. So this is the steering winds show a decent sign at this storm moving toward Florida. There's two separate lows. There's that trough. You can see the energy associated with the trough. There it is. This is the trough that moves into the Bay of Campeche, gives us a chance for a few thunderstorms Friday and Saturday. Then here's the front. Sorry, that was a little bit aggressive. There's the spinny section, right? That's where a possible tropical development is headed toward Florida again, and then the cold front keeping it out of the Carolinas with that trough setting up. So again, lots of signs pointing toward this path. The intensity is still a little bit of a question mark. The more shear that sets up in the Gulf of Mexico, the lower that intensity is going to be. And that's really what we want to see at this point. So high pressure for now, keeping Texas nice and dry. So this is our current forecast. Ooh, sunshine, lots of it, lots of sunshine. Feels like 90 degrees already. We do have a little bit more humidity, so we may feel closer to 100 this afternoon. 95 degrees your high. In fact, with high pressure part where it's at, just over kind of New Mexico, what we see is the dry air moving in, still some drier air, some warmer air out of the continental United States. And so we could near a record high today and on Tuesday. Record highs are going to be possible. I don't think we'll get it on Wednesday. We'll be close on Thursday. Then we are cooler as we do see that opportunity of rain. Now, our rainfall is not looking great because it does look like that system is going to curve once it makes it into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's going to be moving northeast or northwest. It's going to be moving, well, northwest would be this way if you're watching this video. It's going to be moving northwest, and then it's going to turn northeast with the latest data, right? So with that being said, that system heads toward Florida. The rainfall forecast showing all of the rain across the Gulf of Mexico, and then there across the Florida Peninsula. Tampa doesn't need more rain. They saw a lot of flooding, but right now it looks like the Sunshine State is looking at getting the most rain out of this potential tropical system. Texas not seeing much rain, but South Texas has the best shot at any rainfall over the next 7 days. So here's Futurecast playing out all the scenarios. You see storm activity really picking up in the Gulf of Mexico during the day on Tuesday. Then you see the trough really setting up, so that develops. There's an area of low pressure that tries to set up in the Bay of Campeche, it looks like, on Thursday. but it stays fairly weak. We see the moisture stretched up toward the cold front, and then as that trough moves west, we increase our rain on Friday. There's the high pressure setting up, pushing that tropical system around the high and toward the cold fronts that are passing over the eastern United States. That front does look like it may move through Texas Monday into Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. High pressure, though, sets back up pretty quickly. So what you need to know, the weather impact, is just keep an eye on the latest forecast updates, especially for this weekend with that chance of possible development. But overall, wave heights do pick up on Sunday, but that looks like it's more so because of the cold front than any tropical system really strengthening. Cold fronts pick up our wave action also. So period every 8 seconds or so, rip current risk does go up a bit. But just a reminder that hurricane season has peaked, but this is still a very active part of the season. It doesn't end until November 30th. Typically, as we head into October, which starts tomorrow, we see these systems headed for the Gulf of Mexico and then curving back toward Florida. And so that has a lot to do with the troughs, the cold fronts that set up as we're heading into fall. Going throughout fall, we're working on getting temperatures cooler. Those cold fronts are bringing cooler air into the United States, and they're steering tropical systems up across the Atlantic. So yeah, overall, Texas has only seen 3 landfalling hurricanes during the month of October, and the latest, October 16th. One was 1912 in Corpus Christi. The other was in Galveston in 1989. That was Jerry. So in your 7-day forecast, just a reminder, keep an eye on the forecast for Friday. Lots of events, sports, high school football taking place. Rain chances do look like they'll go up a bit on Friday, thanks to that trough, that tropical trough. But Saturday, 40% chance of rain, then rain trending down into Sunday. There is a chance we see a front try to work its way through on Sunday and into Monday, so that's something to look forward to. But for now, this is your forecast update. With myself, I'm meteorologist Carly Smith. Thank you so much for watching. Is it coming here at this point? I do not think so, Paula. We are going to get a trough that increases our rain, but it doesn't look like much. Confidence is low at this point, but all of the signs are pointing towards steering toward the Florida coastline. Once again, chance of development did lower to 40%. So that's a good sign. We want that to continue to go down. The trend continues to go down. Lots of shear in the Gulf of Mexico with some fronts passing over the eastern United States. So that should keep tropical development a little weaker, but we'll keep an eye on it. That's what we're here for. Thanks again for watching. I'm meteorologist Carly Smith. For 3 News, First Edition, your weather impact forecast. Have a wonderful week ahead.